Hey guys, my name is Boras and welcome to this new League of Legends video from Fantastic Esports. Today we will do a patch notes 12.13. So today we will be talking about the biggest changes both in solo queue and both in competitive play. As we can see, we have some slight nerfs, which we always have like in this pictures before the patch notes are announced. We have like a Corki nerf and we also have a Volibear nerf. Next to that, we have buffs on Elise, Evelynn, Fiddlesticks, Galio, Cartus, Kled, Master Yi, Olaf, Renekton, Talaya, and Vex. And also there are some adjustments to Gwen and both Sivir. I consider them actually more like buffs because Gwen, she's gonna be like more adjusted towards the, not pro play. I would say she's buffed, but for like less skillful players, she's gonna be a lot more easy to play out, and we're gonna be reading about as well. And Sivir, just like overall, she's been like in a rough spot. She's been like a good safe pick, but now I think she's in a really decent position to be picked in solo queue consistently. And also we have Nyla. She's the new champion. You also have some videos about that. You can check out the champion spotlight to read more about that. So we're not going to be talking too much about Nyla because we won't be seeing her both in competitive for 2 weeks to a month. So she's not really necessary to talk about. Let's start up with Sivir. So Sivir has a base health decrease from 632 to 600. Also her mana has been increased. Mana growth has also been decreased. But on top of that, these are just like some basic stats adjustments. So her passive has been also changed. Her passive move speed has been going up from 35 to maximum of 55 on her max level, pretty much to being like 55 base on her first level. So she's gonna be like really having a lot more kiting opportunities and everything. The DK, it isn't like consistent, the move speed isn't gonna be consistent, so it's gonna be decaying over 1.5 seconds. But I still think if you're like a decent ADC, you should be kiting consistently, so the decay won't really impact you. I think Sivir Janna combo should be really untouchable at the moment, so I think that's going to have a lot of impact, and we should be seeing that a lot of solo queue, and both in competitive, it's going to be like even the stronger version of Nami Lucian, I would say, because Nami Lucian, you have to invest a lot of resources into them, and Janna Sivir is like a safe ADC, and Janna is just like a safe support, which is just like hard to reach, hard to dive, so yeah. Next to that, we have some Q changes on Sivir. As well as we can see here, also she's got some like AP ratios increased. The AD ratio scaling has been reduced, so they're removing like they're moving her away from that lethality Sivir to more of that like on hit, because now it scales with critical strike chance. So Kraken Slayer Sivir, here we come. And also it's been like sped up, so the missile speed from the Q has also been sped up, so that's gonna be very impactful. We also have some severe W changes, right? So it's going from, they're again moving it from lethality severe, just so because the AD scalings have been reduced, the mana cost has also have been reduced, and as we can see here, the buff rotation now is lasting for 4 seconds, so that's like another second of Sivir just like throwing her ricochet. Yeah, it's ricochet. So, and also you get the bonus move speed, a bonus attack speed when you activate ricochet. So that's gonna be a big thing, and it deals 80% damage to minions. So it's like 20% nerfed. So like the wave clear is gonna be slightly nerfed on Sivir because her Q damage is gonna be reduced into the early game. So it's her W. So that early game wave clear is gonna be a little bit reduced. Then next to that, we have some E changes on her as well. Blocking an enemy ability now heals Sivir for 60, 65, 70, 75, and 80% of her total AD. So that's, that's new. Now it doesn't give you mana, but it heals you, right? So that's like totally a different approach. Now Sivir doesn't really have the sustain issues anymore. So that's different. Blocking an ability now procs Sivir's passive, Fleet of Foot. So also it gives you move speed. So that's a really good thing. And the biggest change is going to be her ultimate on the hunt, right? So her ultimate cooldown has been decently decreased, and the duration has been increased, so that's going to be like very impactful both in competitive and in solo queue. It's going to be like a really good game changer, like especially if we have maybe even like something like a combo support. You're just going to be like running around the map as a team, going from one objective to another in like seconds, so that's going to be like really ridiculous. Okay, let's move on to Corki. Corki has been nerfed, as we've seen, right? So the ticks have been nerfed like a little bit. As we can see here, it's the base stats have been pretty much stayed the same, right? But it also scales more in AD now, so I think they're moving him like a little bit more from that AP build towards that AD build, because like core AP Corki scaling was just like ridiculous. As we can see here, also they're decreasing it from AP scaling again to like from 20% to 12%, and also like the base damage has been reduced. And also the big one, the big rocket, was dealing a ton of damage, which we can also see here, has been reduced from 40% AP to 24% AP. And also the base damage, as we can see, it's also been reduced there. So that's gonna be like a pretty significant nerf, because 60% AP really means a lot. Now let's see the Elise buff. So her HP growth has been buffed, and also her base health, also a little bit of her armor. It's gonna help her out throughout the early game. And also her Q has been, you know, increased, but onto like, you know, the higher levels, like 5 damage. I don't think really that matters a lot, so that's a 10. It's gonna be like better for late game, so slightly less scaling for the late game, I would say. But the Evelyn buffs are gonna be very interesting. So self heal at low health, so it's like been from 15 to 75 up to 15 to 150, so that's like totally like 75 additional health from level 1 to 18, so that's gonna be very huge. And also the magic resistance reduction, as we can see, has a really decent buff. So it went in on the max level, it goes all the way by 10% decrease. That really is a game changer. And now her ultimate puts her like in passive almost instantly. Like, you know, you have a smaller cooldown for a passive. So usually Evelyn had some like issues when she ulted. She wasn't like able to go back into her invisibility, so she would struggle with that. So now she doesn't really have that, so that's very good. And next we have Fiddlestick. So it's a Fiddlestick buff now. So Q Terrify cooldown has been, duration, sorry, the duration has been increased. So, you know, by 0.25 seconds, it can actually matter sometimes. It's really good buff. And also the AP scalings and the base damage from his ultimate has been increased. So that's gonna be huge. That's gonna be huge. Next to that, we have Galio. Q damage increase, so he's going to be having a lot more safer laning phase. He's going to be able to poke a lot more, as we can see. And then we have the Gwen adjustment. So what does this tell us? So Gwen health regen has been increased, so Gwen is going to have a lot more sustain on the laning phase, which is really good. Then next to that, we have her passive, maximum damage. You know, it's been reduced, so they're moving the Gwen out of the jungle. She's going to be less of a flex pick, which, if you're asking me, I personally like and I prefer, because I don't think the Gwen jungle was too much of a reliable pick. It was more for competitive flexing and stuff like that, but still unreliable. The Q has a ton of changes, as we can see. So the basic damage snip has been increased, so the like base stats by 1 up to like 5 on max levels, and also the final snip damage, as we can see, it's increased for on base damage and also on the AP scaling. But there's this kind of a nerf on the other hand, which is going to be the reduced true damage. But if you're building AP, you know, the true damage is great and everything, but, you know, it's going to be like a fine buff nerf. It depends how we look at it and how much magic resist are the enemies building, actually. And also there's this new thing. Now deals 75 damage against minions with more than 20% health, and minions below 20% health take 1000 bonus damage increase. So it's pretty much like an execute onto the minions. Then we have some W changes on her. Bonus armor and magic resist are going from 12 on the first level to 20 on max level to 17 on first level to 25 on max level, and there's that 2% AP ratio increase, but the duration has been decreased. So it's gonna be like a nerf in competitive, I would say, as I said, and it's gonna be like a buff in solo queue, so like for less skillful players and everything. The bonus range has been increased back to as it was before. Also, as we can see, more AP scaling is increased. Cooldown like nerfs. Yeah, so she's getting like a nerf on her E cooldown. But yeah, and also she doesn't get a refund on her E when she hits a target anymore. That's gonna be weird, and that's gonna be interesting. So her trading patterns are gonna be like, I think that's gonna be really hurting her a bit. But again, the AP scaling is on her ultimate, and the base damage has been increased again, so that's really interesting. But now we don't need to hit an enemy to get like another ultimate sack, so that's also gonna be very interesting. Next to that, we have some Karthus buffs. that's gonna be like terrorizing us in solo queue. He's gonna be a lot more healthy, and I don't think the health really matters on him because he was like suicidal anyway, let's say. And now he has that health growth, he has that armor increase, so his early game is gonna be like really buffed. So we're gonna see how that's gonna be headed to. Then next to that we have Kled buffs. His Q initial damage, as we can see, has been buffed. So, you know, the base damage stays the same, but a slight increase in the bonus AD, and the second activation damage, so that's like after you Q, after it procs, you have like a 10% increase on the bonus AD, so that's gonna be kinda decent, that's gonna be good, but I don't think that's gonna put him up to the meta. And his W cooldown has been like also slightly decreased by a second, not too much of buff, I would say. It's not gonna put him back in the meta, maybe a little bit more viable, but I don't think he just like suits the meta. Then we have an increase on Master Yi's basic attack range by 50. That's huge. Then we have some Q changes. Again, by default, Master Yi will be placed 75 units in front of his primary target. During Alpha Strike, Master Yi might right click to instead be placed 75 units in the direction clicked. So now his Q isn't gonna be predictable anymore, because he usually was pretty much placed in front of the target, right? So where the target is facing, there he's gonna be positioned as well. So that's gonna be a little bit of different. Then we have some W changes from like 28 seconds to 9 seconds. The mana cost has been moved to 40 plus 6% maximum mana per second. That's weird. And then we have the damage reduction from 60 to 90% to the first 0.5 seconds. That's gonna be really good versus like Z ultimates and stuff like that. It's gonna be like a really more of a skill ability now, so I'm really interested to see what that's gonna do, and that's gonna be very interesting. Then we have some all-off adjustments, buffs, let's say. So his health regeneration has been nerfed. Also, his health regeneration growth has been nerfed. Health regeneration at level 18 also nerfed. But then we have some passive buffs, so it went from like a 40% to a 60% on the early levels. That's really huge. And same goes for his mana cost on his Q, because he was having some mana issues, but not anymore. Then next to that we have Renekton damage buff on his ultimate, which wasn't there before. There was only the AP scaling, but now we have on AD scaling as well. So Renekton got buffed like 2 patches ago on his ultimate damage and everything, but he's getting it again. So I'm very interested to see where that's going. It's gonna give him a lot more scaling and like more damage into teamfights, because I think his ultimate was dealing a decent amount of damage before. Then we have some Talia changes again, because the Talia's passive cooldown will no longer reset due to proc damage like Landry's Anguish, so that's interesting. So the burn damage won't really be resetting the cooldown off of that. That's gonna be not really something necessary, but I'm still interested to see what that's gonna do. We have some first rock damage adjustment, so the AP scaling is the same. The damage has been like up by 5, not so much, and the 5 rock damage has been pretty much increased as well in total, so that's like 13 damage in total base damage, so that's like kind of okay, not too much of a buff. And there's that boulder damage, that's like the Q which you're throwing off of the platform, which is left over from your first Q. That's also pretty much getting a slight buff, and the mana costs have been going down, so the laning phase of Talia is gonna be like a lot more punishing. I think her E changes were like kind of cringe if you're asking me, so we're gonna see that. And again, they're nerfing Talia into the jungle again. Hitting jungle monsters with Talia's boulder created when activating Q on Wicked Ground now stuns jungle monsters. Okay, so we are gonna actually be seeing Talia more into the jungle rather than not, so that's gonna be interesting to see. And then we have some ultimate updates. Ride on our Weaver's Wall no longer goes on cooldown when Talia damages wards or traps, so we're gonna be seeing that a lot more. Then we have some Vex buffs, so the Q cooldown have been going down by a whole second, so that's gonna be very interesting to see. Also, the AP scalings have been increased on the Q damage, that's gonna be really good. Then we have the Volibear buffs as well. We have some bonus move speed decrease. We also have some damage decrease, as we can see on the Q, so the Q is gonna get like nerfed, but the W is getting nerfed as well. Then we have the E. The E is also getting nerfed, so this is actually a nerf, my bad. So Volibear's like all of his abilities are getting like nerfed pretty much. His Q, his W, his E. He was just like, I don't think Volibear has been much too strong recently, as they say. I don't really agree with that. I think he was like okay, but not something like, yeah, I'm gonna perma pick Volibear. I don't think he really deserved a nerf on all three of his abilities. It's just like really weird. So we can also check some Divine Thunder changes, as we can see here. So it goes like from 12% maximum health to 6% for melee, and 9% for range to 3% for range. So that's gonna be interesting. So that's gonna be like a little bit of a weird change. Not sure how that's gonna impact, because I think the Divine Thunder damage was really, I would say, like at a fine spot for bruisers like Jack. But then the healing is getting like kinda increased. So yeah, the Divine Thunder is pretty much getting like a decent nerf. So I don't think that, I mean, I think Divine Thunder was strong, don't get me wrong, but I think like now a lot of the champions on top lane which do use like Divine Thunder, like Jax, they're gonna have some struggles, because like Jax is dealing both magic damage and physical damage. So like going from 5% to 3% on both armor penetration and magic penetration, that's gonna be like reducing Jax's damage in total by 4% per item. So that's a huge nerf, I would say. Then the Morning Embrace has some changes. Eyes on Me passive as a counter gaze now stacks when applied by multiple users, so you're not going to be having any more issues when some of your teammates are also building Demonic Embrace, so that's going to be interesting. And same goes for Leandri's Anguish, so yeah. Then we're going to go to Duskblade of Traktar. Then we have like a mythic passive bonus for Legend, and it's from 5 ability haste to 5 ability haste and 5 bonus move speed. So that's going to be really interesting. Then we have some Eclipse changes. It goes from 4%. Oh, so okay, so all of this like lethality items are getting like some kind of move speed buffs, so they're gonna be like a lot more adjusted more towards the EDCs. So if you're asking me, really, if you go like all the way to the top, like to the beginning of the changes, I think we're gonna be seeing like a lot more of Master Yi, and same goes for like Evelyn. And I mean, Evelyn is gonna be like really punishing the jungle again. Gwen is gonna be like meta again, and I think we're gonna be seeing a ton of Sivir. Karthus is gonna be like terrorizing the solo queue. He was already, and then he's getting some additional buffs. So we're gonna be seeing a ton of Karthus, Yi, Sivir, Gwen, which I don't really agree with. I don't really think those champions. I mean, okay, Sivir, she deserves some like glow up, but I don't think we deserved to see another patch of Gwen, which is really just like unfortunate. But I guess that's something which we have to live with. And if Riot wants to see Gwen, I guess we will be seeing Gwen. So Nalek is also gonna be changing the game a bit. I think they released like a second champion after the previous one a little bit too much fast. I think there's like already too many champions in the game, so they should have taken a bit more time off of that. But I guess it is what it is. And thank you for watching this patch notes. If you do have any questions, please make sure to leave them into the comments. This was a patch highlights of 12.13, and I'll see you on the Summer's Rift. Goodbye.